Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to a special edition of the Omega Metroid podcast. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Doominal Crossing Doom. We have a lot to get into in a very short amount of time, so we just better get right into it. We have gaming news, we have gaming leaks, we have lots of stuff going on in the Metroid universe, but before we do get into that, Doom, I think that we should spend a second recapping some of the insanity that has taken place in the last week in the video game world, particularly coming from our pals over at Sony and Microsoft, who seem to be in a competition with each other to see who can be the more sleazy company, and both of them are winning right now.
I was about to say, I don't know if "pals" is the word that I want to use to call them right now. I'm not feeling very close to them at the moment.
Well, would you like to start with Sony, or would you like to start with Microsoft?
I mean, on one hand, the Microsoft is the newest information, but I feel like the Sony information is the most damning and probably going to have like the worst long-term effects. I feel like we got to start off with Sony, unfortunately, and I mean, yeah, everyone, we're not like breaking any news here. If you're listening to the podcast, you've probably already heard by now. But yeah Sony announced a few days ago now that they will be ceasing production of physical games, at least on their end, for their first-party studios, starting in 2008. Which, for those of you who know how to do math, that is 2 years from now. That is a very short time window. And
this is what I think. Like, I think the PlayStation 6 is coming out in 2028, and like there is going to be no version that has any kind of disk drive at all.
Yep. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty bad.
Yeah, this is awful, and some folks might think that's hypocritical of me saying that, because I don't buy that many physical games. I've pretty much moved on to digital for the most part, again with a couple of exceptions here and there. Mm-hmm. But that being said, this is awful. Nobody wins here. I am always a big fan of options, people being able to choose how they want to experience their media. And I posted about this on, my social media accounts as well, but a lot of people were not surprised. I was actually like extremely shocked by this information. And the reason why is because, yes, obviously, a lot of, consumer trends have been moving more and more towards digital throughout the last decade and a half or so. But I would argue that plenty of other mediums have, gone even further down that route than video games, particularly, music, which is my field. I mean, I barely know anyone in my personal life that buys physical music nowadays. Most people just get their stuff on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Tidal, etc. And, even in spite of that, despite like 90% of the population moving on to that, it's not difficult at all, to go online or go to a record store, find a CD or a vinyl if you do want, to have that physical copy. Movies, even though streaming, has ballooned, you can still find, even movies being produced today. There's, 4K Blu-rays and even DVD sales are like, there's an audience for that's still being catered to. And I figured, with those mediums being much further into the digital route than gaming was, I figured that, physical gaming would still be safe for at least a while longer. But no, and of all people too, with Sony, arguably being one of, the biggest industry leaders of this, I think, unfortunately, this is going to have a domino effect across the whole industry. Yeah, it's just awful. There's no silver lining to this at all. It sucks.
Yeah, it's really bad on like multiple levels. And one of the most disheartening things to me was we had a daily debate over on ZeldaDungeon.net reporting this news, saying, how do you feel about this? And a lot of people were just like, I don't know, I buy my games digital, so I don't care, like whatever, we should just all accommodate over to this. And I think that's just like really, really uninformed. And I don't mean that negatively, I just mean like legitimately uninformed. There's a few things that I want to just quickly go over. Sony put out a press release slash like an explanation for this move, saying that 82% of PlayStation 5 hardware is made up of digital sales, and that is like intentionally incredibly misleading, because what they are not telling you is that they are counting all game sales, including games that have never had a physical release ever. They are also including DLC. They are also including any type of microtransaction, any game that you can think of. They are like, all of that stuff is counted in this 82%. If you look at the first party sales, physical versus digital, they are much closer, probably about like almost 50-50. Some games lean more physical, some games lean more digital, but like it's certainly not that big of a discrepancy. So Sony right away is just like lying to you about this shift, trying to justify presumably saving costs on packaging and all that kind of stuff. But I think the more alarming thing, obviously, is that this just gives Sony complete control over what you can play and what you cannot play. When you download a game, it's tied to your Sony account, and Sony can shut your account off at any time that they want. So if you get banned for, I don't know, maybe you're in an area with spotty internet connection and you drop out of a Fortnite match or something like that, and Sony takes that as like, oh, this player has intentionally dropped out because they were losing, you can lose your account for that, and thus every single thing that you've purchased. You will also lose your ability to buy a game, play the game, sell the game to another person if you cannot buy physical. So I heard a lot of people just being like, what's the big deal? It's not anything, like just this is the new age. And it's like, I am going to point you to a story that literally took place this week, where Sony restricted your right to watch movies that you purchased. 500 movies that people have purchased are just gone because they lost the licensing agreement. And if you think there was a refund, if you think there was any sort of compensation, you're out to lunch, because they were just like, they flipped the switch off, and even though you paid for it, it's gone. This is like this. I don't think that can happen to video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this isn't like, so like this will happen occasionally with video games where like a game will get delisted, but you can still personally download it for yourself. That is not the case for these movies. They will not be, by once this agreement fades out, you will not be able to watch these movies even if they are still downloaded onto your hard drive. That is, I want to swear so bad, but I'm going to keep it together. This is like absolutely egregious. And
I think I've used this example before, Doom. Tell me, I was a big Rock Band guy, right? I loved Rock Band 2. I loved that game.
We were talking about this a couple episodes ago.
Do you think I can play all of the DLC songs that I purchased and downloaded, even though I bought my physical copy of Rock Band and my physical drums and my physical guitars? No, I can't, because when I paid for them, I thought I was owning them, but I'm really just paying for the access to stream that content. Those servers are shut down. Gone. That money is gone. Nothing, no refund, nothing. So like, this is just like so bad. It's so bad for consumers. It's anti-consumer and pro-corporation, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and it follows immediately after GTA 6 announcing that it's going to be a digital-only game, no physical copies, which again, I probably wasn't going to buy it physical, but the fact that you don't even have the option for what is going to be one of the biggest, it's not even one of, it's going to be the biggest game of this console generation by far. It's going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars, and you're telling me that they can't put a little bit of extra money into a physical disc. That is absolutely atrocious. And I was thinking about this, and we'll talk more about it with the Xbox news as well, but like, I think this is the first time in my life where I'm just not at all excited for a new console generation. Even the ones that inevitably fall flat, like, the Wii U obviously was a miserable time, but like going into the Wii U, it was exciting. It was a new console. I have zero excitement about like the PlayStation 6 or Project Helix for the Xbox. It's just, yeah, it's dark days in the gaming industry right now.
Very dark days in the gaming industry, and so let's shift our focus over to Microsoft, who has announced 4,800 job layoffs. 1,600 of those happening today, and I mean, that's just absolutely brutal. There were a few companies that were able, or a few developers really that were able to go their own way, so they're not affiliated with Microsoft anymore. But I'm not going to even say that's a silver lining. There's no silver lining. This is just like 4,800 people that lost their jobs or will lose their jobs. And frankly, I think that it's just like absolutely sickening that Microsoft is one of, maybe it's the, I don't know, but it's certainly one of the richest companies and corporations in the history of this planet Earth, and they are laying off all of these employees, and they're laying it off because I'm sure that they're trying to make up some of the billions and billions and billions of dollars that they invested just trying to gobble up every single studio that they could, thinking that that was going to be the answer to their software problems. And I just like, I don't know what their strategy has been. I think Microsoft is like completely lost the plot with everything that it has really tried to do in the last console generation or two. But this is a really, really dark day. You know, Asha Sharma, the Xbox president, put out like a fine enough release, like kind of detailing and admitting to some fault, and like that's fine. But like, you know, 4,800 people are out of work because of your mistakes. I just think it's sickening. And honestly, I think that, you know, he kind of had the good guy reputation, but a lot of this is at Phil Spencer's feet. Like
100%, yes.
he should go down as a failed leader of Xbox, because this is a black eye for Microsoft and a black eye for the Xbox brand. And I don't even know if it recovers from this. Like, I feel like Xbox as a brand was already kind of teetering on death's door, and here we are. You couldn't get a worse look than this.
Yeah, and I've heard some people argue, well, Microsoft had no choice. And you know what? Sure, I'll give you that. The fact is, it shouldn't have even come to this to begin with. Like, this was obviously like the writing was already on the wall, and there were so many opportunities to avoid this. But Xbox, again, under Phil Spencer, kept doubling down on the acquisitions and buying up all these studios. And now here we are. We knew it was going to happen, but no one was stopping it. And of course, and Microsoft, this goes past Xbox. This goes more towards Satya Nadella and the overall Microsoft leadership. But Microsoft complained about, oh my gosh, all the high costs of memory and shortage. Microsoft, you are one of the biggest proponents of AI right now. You are the reason that a lot of these components are going up. Sorry for yelling, but like, oh my god, this stuff just try not to swear, but yeah, oh my god, Microsoft isn't of itself. They're literally the meme of the guy in the hot dog, like, oh, we're trying to find the guy responsible for this, and it's like, you are the reason why, you are at least one of the reasons why this stuff is costing so much money, and why you were having to go out of your way to do all these firings in the first place. It's God, I hate the state of gaming right now, Andy. I hate it. It sucks.
I mean, like, it's unsustainable, honestly. Like, it really and truly is. And like, I think like, I've said it before, like every time there's layoffs, I just think of like the next generation of video game developers. And like, my god, like if you're a kid in college and you're just like, okay, I'm at a crossroads. I can either be a video game developer, I can learn the skills and the craft that I need to do this, or I could be a doctor. Like if I'm a doctor, I'm probably going to be in demand for my whole life. Or if I'm learning a trade, I'm going to be in demand for my whole life. If I, even if you just have like a regular 9 to 5 retail, whatever, you're going to be in demand like for your skills. But like, if you are entering this field, it's like, okay, so my options are, I can either try and go independent, which is a needle in a haystack type of venture, because for every success story, there are so many that don't make it. Or I can go and work at a studio where, like, if I'm there for 3 years, that's probably better than most. And they're just going to cut me loose at like, once the game is released that you're working on, it's like, okay, well, I usually thought I would be celebrating now, but now they're probably just going to fire me. So it's just like it's really brutal. And there's really no excuse for it for a lot of these big corporations that are doing it. I know Nintendo takes a lot of flack, deservedly so, but like again, like you look at Nintendo, they're not going all digital. Most of their sales are physical, and I think that is great. And say what you will, man, but they don't lay people off. In fact, they just gave people raises not that long ago to incentivize them to stay. So, um, yeah, I would love to see. We don't have a lot of Iwatas around anymore. I'll say that for sure.
Most definitely. And I will refrain from yelling. I had to get that out of my system though, because that just peeved me beyond belief. Every time it reminds me of like when the Hi-Fi Rush developer, and I can't remember their name right now, unfortunately, but when Microsoft closed down that studio, literally just after, or actually no, it was after they closed the studio, and then literally 2 weeks later, I think it was Matt Booty that came on. It's like, yeah, we need to invest more in like these experimental, type of indie games, and really invest in these kind of publishers. And I'm like, oh, like the one that you just completely shut down. Now, luckily, that publisher, they were able to get acquired, and so they're still functioning, and those folks got to keep their jobs for now at least. But yeah, just like the hypocrisy that comes out of Xbox specifically, like, yeah, it makes my blood boil, man. It does.
Pretty brutal stuff this week, and you know what, I mean, we'll see. Like this is probably not the last time that we hear something like this. Unfortunately, it seems like it pops up every couple of months. And I guess that is kind of a nice transition into what we're going to talk about next, which is maybe happier news, maybe, if you believe it. But what everyone wants us to talk about, why everyone is here, we had a leak earlier this week from the Brazilian government, of all people. The Brazilian government has allegedly leaked the next Metroid game. And it was due to an age rating filed through the country's Minister of Justice and Public Security. So this alleged document, was leaked online July 1st. It was deleted, but of course, nothing is ever truly deleted. So there are screenshots of this filing floating around the internet. I'm sure a lot of people have seen them by now. And they point to a game listed as Metroid Ravenous, which is slated for production in 2026. So what is Metroid Ravenous? Who knows?
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily say, so the production, I believe that was a mistranslation. I believe the production was the time of the document, because the document itself, it lists that as June 30th, which is the day before that this leak happened. So what I'm guessing is that the production date was the date that document was filed, and I think there's a little bit of confusion around that. I don't think there's any evidence really pointing towards the game coming out this year, which also wouldn't really make sense to me, because Nintendo's back half seems a bit filled up right now. I don't really see where you would put a 2D Metroid game at this time. At least,
well, actually, I don't think Nintendo's back half is full at all. It's got Fire Emblem in September, presumably Ocarina of Time in November, and I don't know what else they actually have releasing. But I do agree with you. And we'll circle back to this in just a second, but if this is real, and if this is a Metroid game that's releasing, I can't see it in 2026, simply because I think that if you were going to release this game in 2026, you probably would have announced it at the Direct that just happened. Because otherwise your option is a random Twitter drop, which could happen. That could happen. But otherwise, your option is like a September Direct, and I think that's tight. Like if you're potentially releasing October, November, even December, I think that's tight. December might work, but I mean, who knows? But I have like big questions about the legitimacy about this. I really do. Like I'm just like, I'm not gonna believe anything until I see it. There's nothing here that could not be photoshopped. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing, not even photoshopped. This is just a Word document. Like anybody can make this. So I have big reservations about this. I really do. The validity of the document has not been confirmed, but obviously people are getting excited, and I think like a lot of people are just like going crazy with like what this could be. Everyone seems to think that this is Metroid 6, simply because of the title. I I don't know. I'm not willing to say that. I think that it is as likely that this is Metroid 6 as it is like some new cell phone app or something like that. You know what I mean? So I do want to temper expectations, but I will say like I wouldn't be, like we've talked about it, I would not be shocked if Metroid 6 is near completion. Like it makes sense from a timing standpoint. So we'll see. Like I feel like we don't have, and you know another thing too, this could very well be a code name for the Super Metroid remake if that exists as well. So I don't know that there's like both that are out there. So there's just, I want to temper expectations a little bit for some people.
Yeah, and I think that's important because this is right now still a rumor. Nintendo obviously has not said any official confirmation, so please don't go in just automatically expecting a new Metroid game. It's pretty safe to say at this point in time, just because it's been so long since Dread, the best-selling Metroid game, that yeah, we're probably due for a new 2D Metroid soon. That being said, enjoy the speculation, enjoy the hype, but don't live and die by it. That's always my mantra, because I mean, I think it's, regardless if the story is true or not, this is a really funny and kind of bonkers kind of like origin story of this kind of thing, and just kind of reading about it, it's just in and of itself is really entertaining. I would say just appreciate it on that level, and if it happens to be true, hey, bonus points there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really charmed by any of these leaks, like ever, to be honest with you. I don't know. They're kind of lame, I think, but I mean, whatever. That's fine. A lot of people are having fun with it. A lot of people though are definitely irresponsibly posting about this. Like if you
Yes.
if you look at Metroid Ravenous, there are thumbnails out there that are just like exactly the type of thumbnails that you would think from exactly the type of people that you would think would post those thumbnails. So I mean, we'll see what comes of this. What I will say, Doom, is I'm not in love with the title Metroid Ravenous, if that is indeed
Yeah.
the final
Yeah,
title.
you were talking about it. I love the title personally. I think it to me, like, it definitely feels like a nice follow-up title to Metroid Dread. It definitely and again, we're making assumptions here, but we're assuming that this is Metroid 6 and that this is going to be following up on, kind of, Samus's Metroid turn that she makes at the end of that game. I feel like Ravenous is like, it's a very, it's a very evocative title, which I really like, and I don't know, it makes me excited of what that gameplay possibility could potentially be. Maybe what those story possibilities are. Like, what effect is this Metroid DNA having on Samus? So we've talked about stuff like this on the pod before, but yeah, if this is the title of Metroid 6, I am personally down with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a Chef Boyardee ad to me, but I could probably get on board with it. I think it's weird to have an adjective as your subtitle rather than like a noun, I guess. But whatever. That's probably the least of our concerns. It's worth mentioning too. Like, speaking of layoffs, like, let's not forget, Mercury Steam was hit by tons of layoffs. Stories of alleged mismanagement, and it just sounds like there's a lot of turmoil at that studio as well. So that's something I don't think that we should forget about either. Not to be Debbie Downer, but I think it's worth mentioning, just to again maybe temper some expectations here. But Metroid Ravenous is floating out there, and of course we did a big episode about what we would like to see in Metroid 6, so I definitely do encourage everybody to go and check that out. And yeah, you know what, have fun with this leak, but be responsible with this leak, okay?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Don't create any bogus thumbnails that say like Super Metroid is coming and so is Metroid Ravenous. It's worth mentioning as well, Andy Robinson of VGC did say something to the effect of like, oh, there's more than one title or something like that. I don't know his track record with leaks, specifically Nintendo leaks. Um, I think that he's fairly well regarded, but I'm not really into that. So Doom, you might need to educate me there.
Yeah, he's generally pretty good. He's more of like a reporter for VGC. He does do leaks on occasion,
Yeah.
but yeah, he doesn't. But again, even that is I definitely I'll say this. I would rather hear Metroid rumors than not hear Metroid rumors. Are they probably fake? Sure, but like I'd rather if I hear them, there's a chance. If I don't hear them, well, that means there's probably nothing happening, you know? So I always just prefer to hear it than not hear it, but that's just my kind of, I don't know, glass half full type of mentality there.
We'll see. Obviously, we will be all over this, and when or if this game gets officially revealed, we will, we'll be all over it. We'll have tons of analysis, tons of episodes, reporting, you name it. So, there we go. Anything you want to add to Metroid Ravenous before we get out of here?
I think most people are joking about this, but I don't think Ravenous, again, if it's a real title, I don't think that's a reference to Ravenbeak at all. I think, and to be fair, I think most people are joking about that. I've seen some people that are not joking though. I don't think it has any relation to that. I just want to get that out of here.
Could it be
at the outset
that we've been doing this wrong? Could it be Metroid Ravenous? We'll see. Only time will tell. All right, this has been your special edition of the Omega Metroid podcast. Thanks for checking us out, everybody. OmegaMetroid.com for all of your Metroid news, and if anything leaks for Metroid Ravenous, we'll definitely have further updates for you. Check us out on YouTube, on social, and of course over on Patreon as well. Patreon.com/SPNet. That's going to do it for us, folks. We'll see you back here for our regularly scheduled episode inspired by Metroid. Take care.